When the NES came out, it put Atari in a position to jump back into the console wars. And well, we all know who the clear winner was. For a while there, they pumped out the same games on each console. I am the Game Collector, and this is Second Opinion Games. And today I put the Atari 7800 up against the Nintendo, trying to see which one had the best games.
Second Opinion Games.
First up, we're going to look at Choplifter on the Atari 7800. Well, there's no music here, and this is the bare bones version of Choplifter. One button is to fire when the other one is to change direction, regardless of which direction you're actually holding on the controller itself. It's sort of locked into these different views. You have to blow up buildings to pick up little people and drop them off into safety, is what you're supposed to do. However, this game just didn't know that all that well, because when you pick up the people, suddenly you're unfairly assaulted by all directions with missiles and bullets alike. Also, sometimes the little guys just don't want to get into your helicopter, and occasionally you just smash them under your helicopter itself because they continuously just try to be smashed. This is really difficult and also really unfair. Pay attention just how many times just bullets come out of nowhere and blow up my ship. Boy, I hope it's not this hard on the Nintendo. Over on the Nintendo, we have some music this time around, and the graphics have been cleaned up nicely. However, that hard difficulty that you saw in the 7800 has been ramped up to 11 here, because there's just ships and vehicles everywhere just trying to blow up your helicopter, even in your own zone, which is supposed to be the safety zone. When you stop and pick up passengers this time around, you'll be immediately bombarded with freaking ships trying to bomb you and everything else, including tanks that pull forward. Also, everything is harder to hit in this game because you have to be situated exactly right in order to take out your targets, making the Nintendo version super unplayable. So even though it looks a lot better, I have to give the win to the Atari 7800. On to Commando. On the Atari, things play pretty well, other than it's a little bit slow. If you continuously push forward, you have your best shot to make it to the end of the level. Mowing down people is really fun because you seem to cut them in half with your bullets. You could also pick up machine guns and throw grenades, even though the throwing grenade part doesn't really feel that precise. The music is alright, and the gameplay seems fine. It is a little difficult, and I like the little cutscenes in between levels, including this guy smoking a cigarette. On the Nintendo, the graphics are slightly upgraded, but they put people just everywhere shooting really fast, making the game Nintendo hard. And because it's a lot harder, it's nearly unplayable. Also, the guys don't get cut in half when you shoot them, making it not so satisfying. And the music is by far the worst here. Even though they have different tunes, it just shreds your ears as it plays, making this way too unplayable. So I gotta give the win again to the Atari 7800. But I gotta give it to Nintendo, at least they still kept the guy smoking a cigarette here. Jumping into a little Donkey Kong, Mario makes his arrival. And of course, on the Atari 7800, this game was not gonna look as good. But what really stands out is the fact that it doesn't sound nearly as good. The controls also feel just a little bit off, but I gotta give it to them, at least they have all three levels here, even if they're not that well done. On the Nintendo, the graphics are beautiful, and the color choices are perfect. The sound effects are great, and the music is iconic, and Pauline stays a redhead, even if on the 7800 version she seemed to be a blonde. Overall, the perfect experience is definitely on the Nintendo, even if it is missing that Pie Factory level. Might as well check out Donkey Kong Jr. while we're here. On the Atari 7800, I don't know what they did with the sound effects, trying to make them the worst they possibly could. The gameplay itself is overall decent. You could still play and beat all four levels here, but I think Nintendo actually sabotaged this version just to make their system stand out, because jumping over to their system, look at it, it's a night and day better, and the music sounds totally crystal clear. This is definitely the definitive way to play Donkey Kong Jr. All 4 levels play just like in the arcade, and I gotta say, freeing Donkey Kong from that evil Mario never felt so satisfying. If you do happen to play this second time around, everything does increase in difficulty on both systems, but at least you could beat the game on the Nintendo. On Double Dragon, this is where things get a little bit different. On the Atari 7800 version, they stay true to the arcade, other than the graphics, which are just awful. But you can play 2-player at the same exact time, and there can be up to 6 different characters on screen at once. Also, all of your moves are available to you right off the start. You have a headbutt, you have the elbow, and you have the jump kick, as well as just punching and kicking. But over on the Nintendo, you can't play 2-player at the same time unless you jump into this weird fighting mode. Otherwise, you're just taking turns, and there could only be you and 1 other character on the screen. What? There shows 2 other characters on the screen? Well, I'm saying that they're both the same stinking character. They always have the same character on screen at once with your guy, and that's just a huge difference. Also, on the Nintendo, you have to unlock the different moves as you play through the game, so you don't start out with that devastating elbow. Instead, you have to earn it, continuously earning hearts on the bottom of the screen to possibly even learn how to do a jump kick or take out people with uppercuts and stuff like that. Overall, the Nintendo version is far and away better because they actually managed to improve the arcade version, other than the fact that you can't play 2-player at the same time. While we're beating up people and saving girlfriends, let's take a look at Kungfu Masters. Now, the graphics, of course, are been downgraded dramatically, and the score eats up at a whole third of the screen, so you have a very small playfield to play the game on. But my biggest problem with the game is the fact that the punch and kick buttons are now the exact same. You have to hold the controller at a weird angle to get the punch to go on, so you don't always punch when you want to, and you don't always kick when you want to. My other big problem in the game is that the jump just feels off, so trying to jump over knives is nearly impossible this time around, making sure those knife throwers just continuously kill you and drain your health, making this a very unfair game. On the NES, every problem has been fixed. The graphics look better. It still only plays on 2/3 of the screen, but you don't even really notice that, and every time you strike someone, you make a cool karate sound. And the enemies here look better than ever. Even this wizard, I can just punch his head off. You don't see that at all on the 7800 version, even if you never actually manage to get there, because that game is unplayably difficult. Of course, the NES has one of the best versions of Kungfu Masters, even if they just renamed it Kung Fu. And now it's time for a monster battle with Rampage. On the Atari 7800, of course the graphics don't look nearly as good, but we do expect that at this point. The music sounds alright, and I decided to go with Lizzie the Lizard because I remember that it's a girl. However, when I died, I shrunk back down to human size, and I remained green, and only covered up my bottom naughty bits, making I'm not even sure if this still is a girl. On this menu screens it shows that it's a girl, but here you can't really tell. Also, blowing up people and eating stuff just feels awkward and all, and the controls feel very off. Jumping over to Nintendo, of course, the controls still feel off. This early Rampage version is really crude, and the music is on like a 3-second loop, so you pretty much have to mute the TV if you want to play this game. However, you do feel like you're making progression as you play through it, because it shows a map of the country and the areas that you stomped and smashed your way through. Also, when you die, you turn back into Lizzie and you have to cover up your little naughty bits, making this definitely the best version of the game. And I'm not saying that just because you get to see a girl kind of naked scroll across the screen. I'm saying it because overall the game's a lot better. So, just don't hold that against me. While we're wrestling this match over, I thought we might as well look at a wrestling game. How about Title Match Pro Wrestling on the Atari 7800? Wow, this is really bad. There's buttons here, and I just keep on hitting them, but I can't figure out any moves whatsoever. This is unplayable and is probably the worst wrestling game of all times. So the Nintendo has to be better. In Tag Team Wrestling, I know these aren't the same games, but just trust me here and go with it. This also has buttons that do stuff, but I can't do anything at all. And it also doesn't look or play or sound good. So either way you go, both these games are garbage and should not be played under any circumstances. I'm just kind of showing you what fighting/wrestling games would look like on either system. While we're on the bad games, we might as well show off some Ikari Warriors. Now, I really like the game in the arcade, however, home consoles really got the shaft on their ports. On the 7800 version, it opens up with a cool cutscene with your plane landing really badly in the woods and you have to Rambo your way out. Now, the graphics, again, not as good. The sound effects, also not as good. And the gameplay is harder than heck. Jumping in the tanks is pretty much a death sentence, even though it's your best shot at making it through the level. Anyway you look at it, you're gonna die. And when you play Ikari Warriors on the NES, again, that opening cutscene looks okay, but probably not as good as the 7800 version, and the sound effects are actually good enough to actually listen to with some volume. So I gotta appreciate the game for that. But the punishingly difficult level just makes it unplayable. So you can do a little cheat code here to hit ABBA to bring back to life, and then you could keep on playing, but who really wants to do that if the game just makes you do it all the stinking time? So this is just awful. That's another big thing I want to say about the 7800 versus the NES. There seems to be almost no cheats on the 7800, where the Nintendo on all these games seems to add in one or two little cheats because they know that makes the game a lot more fun, and the fact that they could sell cheat books themselves. How about some winter games? On the 7800, the opening ceremony has a fire that's just out of control, and that's pretty cool. And when we jump into the games, we'll find the first one is the Biathlon, which is just skiing downhill and across country, and then picking up a rifle and shooting things. Yeah, this is actually a lot of fun, even if the controls do take some getting used to. Then we move on to speed skating, where you rock the controller back and forth to try to move faster than the other guy. This is pretty bad, I gotta say. And then the ski jump, I can't figure out this at all, so I continuously just go splat, which I gotta say gives me a little bit of a chuckle, and I get perfect scores across the board. And then we jump into some bobsledding, where we have to bobsled, and yeah, just hold the direction, and when turns come up, and it's over. It's something at least. Over on the NES, the opening ceremony doesn't feel that impressive. The fire just isn't as huge and as loud as it was on the 7800. But when we jump into the main game, we'll see things have changed slightly here. We still have the speed skating, which is now made even more difficult. We still have the bobsledding, which looks slightly better, but plays about the same. We have the ski jump, which I still can't seem to do anything with it at all, and they seem to have gotten rid of entirely the Biathlon, because they don't want to show off the guns in their games. Unlike, Contra and like every other game on Nintendo that has guns. So, of course, they stripped that out for figure skating. Yes, figure skating. Now, I can't figure out how to do anything in this portion of the game, except for drop to my knees and beg for better scores. And normally, I like it when girls drop to their knees and start begging for things, but in this, it's just really bad. Somehow, I have to give the win to the Atari 7800 for at least having the balls to have the Biathlon. Let's jump into our last game, Xenophobe. Now, this is the very first time that I played either version of this game. When I picked it up for the Atari 7800, I noticed that it's immediately one of those Aliens type of style rip-off games. You only have one button is for shoot. If you push down, you crouch. If you push up, you jump. Or if also you could operate terminals when pushing up, and when you push down, you could pick up items. And you just move through the stage and try and find different items. Eventually, you'll teleport off the stage, and then the station blows up or something. Now, shooting aliens here is kind of fun, and the graphics do look pretty bad. So I thought they had to make this game so much better for the Nintendo. And when I put it in, I found that graphically it looks worse somehow. Also, the 2-button approach is far worse. Yes, one button is still for shoot, but now the second button is for crouching and jumping and picking up stuff and interacting with things. Yes, that means you have to hit a button and push down if you want to crouch rather than just pushing down. Believe it or not, this makes the whole game just feel completely worse on top of the worst graphics, and just overall playability of this game makes it a lot less fun. Yeah, I'd rather be playing the 7800 version of this. Now, we all know that Nintendo won this console war, and the Atari 7800 barely even put up a fight. They had these consoles made from years ago that were just collecting dust in a warehouse, and they just wanted a way to unload them as today's modern gaming console of choice, and they did a really bad job of it. But the fact that some of these games were even better just blew me away. Choplifter was pretty good, Commando was also pretty decent on the 7800, and so was Winter Games with that Biathlon. That was kind of cool. Xenophobe itself blew me away in the fact that it actually had better graphics than the Nintendo version. However, the Nintendo continuously kept getting better, while the 7800 got smoked in the dust. So if you're going to play anything, you should definitely play Nintendo. Just don't play pretty much any of these games, unless you just want to stick with Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time making it, and I think I did a pretty fair job showing you the two consoles in the early days. Now, I didn't put every game on this list. I left behind Xevious, Dig Dug, and Joust, but they all play pretty close to the same, believe it or not, even though the Nintendo version of Xevious is quite a bit better. Joust and Dig Dug are almost identical, so I really didn't want to talk about them too much. So what other game consoles do you think that I should compare doing a head-to-head against next? So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and make sure you talk to other people down in the comments down below, because I'm trying to build a community here. So until later, I will see you again, guys.